So this will be your basics, and this is what you're going to be tested on. We begin our exercise by finding our proper stance. We do that by beginning with our feet together. Then we spread our toes as wide as is comfortable, then our heels. Then we take a point from our heels straight out on both sides where it intersects as a triangle. And that is the point right directly in front of the camera. The heels remain on the base of the triangle, and each time you turn from side to side, your back foot follows the line that your hands just drew on the ground, pointing towards the point of the triangle towards the camera. As each of the exercises are done, you turn your complete body, feet and all, from side to side. Now, if you're practicing inside, you would go from wall to wall on the opposing walls of your building. If you're practicing outside, which is always the best, you would be going from any recognizable point to the other. Now you can see that the triangle elbow exercise begins to focus on that point of the triangle towards the camera. You can see the elbow, and we turn into the elbow. The entire body torques. Then the back fist and the punch focuses right on the point of the triangle. We call this the power point. In training, you want your entire body to torque into the elbow. The remaining back fist and punch are incidental to the power of the elbow. Now we're going to do what's called diving for needles in the sea. This is an exercise that allows your spine to stretch out. It gives your legs a wonderful stretch, and your shoulders, hip girdle, all of the parts of your body that rarely get exercise are given exercise at this point. And into the final horse stance, where we begin doing the covering exercises and the horse stance work. Now, breathing is the reason that we generally, as often as possible, work out outside is because the air is fresh and clean. Here you'll see a little workout at about 11,000 feet up in the Colorado Rockies. This is where we prefer to work out. And now into the eagle stance. These are the first 5 stances of the Malabar leg work set that we designed as a warm-up. Okay, American Kuntao Silat warm-up. This is designed basically for mature people who have various injuries and things that they don't want to live with for life. So we're going to show you a little bit of self-chiropractic, some breathing, and some stance alignments and stuff like that. And we always start with our beginning stance, heels out, toes out, and hips in. And the thumbs ride right along the trousers. This is your beginning position. And we're going to start with what we call the fire palms. And the breathing begins down in the Tantian point, down in your deep abdomen. So cease breathing up in your chest for a moment and breathe through your abdomen. You're going to use this very soon to stretch your spine. And you can use all of the different breathing techniques that you know, but remember to keep your butt tucked in, your thighs flexed, your legs pulled inward together, and your trousers lined up with your thumb, the seam of your trousers. Now we're going to pull our hands back into the beginning of the tiger position, but it's just going to be open fingers for now. And now you start spreading your legs and contracting your legs at your feet. You're going to spread and contract. You're going to squeeze your butt. You're going to squeeze all of the ligaments in your legs. You're going to keep your knees slightly bent. And you're going to continue breathing down through your abdomen. What you're looking for is a warmth in your palms, in the palm of your hands. You'll begin to feel a warmth as the blood and chi flows up through your feet, through your legs, up your spine, across your shoulders, and down your arms. You're unifying your body now. You're beginning to see your body's mechanisms from the inside. So you can stand in this position. I call this a sleeping horse because you can stand in this position for hours. I've done it. The breathing continues. And now the palms are beginning to warm up. So we're going to begin turning just our upper body, not our feet. Our feet are going to remain where they're at. And you're relaxing. You can shake your fingers. You're looking forward and you're breathing in through your abdomen. You can use your mouth for in. You can use your mouth for out. The same with your nostrils. You can breathe in through your nostrils, out through your mouth, in through your mouth, out through your nostrils. You can play all of those games, and you'll want to do this in your own personal practice for a good solid at least 10 minutes. Now we're not going to do it that long in this practice session because we're just introducing the idea. But now once you begin feeling your spine loosening up around your bottom of your tailbone, then you back to center. And now you're just in a relaxed stance. And you're going to begin the spine stretch. The spine stretch begins with a big in-breath down through your nostrils and out through your mouth. And your neck collapses. In through your nose, out through your mouth, and your top vertebrae collapse. Your next set of vertebrae collapse. Your next set of vertebrae collapse. Your next set collapse. Your next set. 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 Now when all your vertebrae have collapsed, stretched, your hands are down close to the ground. So just take your fingers and place them under your toes and step down on your fingers. Bend your knees and then straighten your knees slowly. You feel the stretch down at the bottom of your spine?
Bend your knees. Straighten your knees. Continue your breathing. This is where the breathing to your 10-10 point is going to expand your lower vertebrae. Okay, now raise your toes, allow your fingers to come free, and just begin shaking your hands. And just let them do whatever they want. Let them flow back and forth, let them flow in and out. Feel what this is doing to your shoulder blades. Continue breathing down low. Continue feeling the spine stretch. Back and forth. Now alternate legs. Alternate by collapsing one, straightening the other, collapsing the other, straightening the other, back and forth. You'll develop a natural rhythm there that you can play with as you breathe. Now, you're going to go from this position, you're going to collapse downward, place your elbows right on your knees, allow your feet to go as far as they need to, and you're going to be in a sort of a praying position now, with your elbows adjusting the traction on your knees. So you can get a good stretch on your legs while you're breathing and stretching your lower spine. And you can rock on this one as well. Move around in circles. And you can stay in this position once again as long as you want to. When you're ready to come up, you simply bend down, pull your toes back to your original position. Take your hands along your legs and move forward as you come up to your original standing position. Now you begin your windmills again. Do you feel the difference in your spine? Okay, now, the next part we're going to go into is the stances. Now, the stances in Chang style Kuntao are very reminiscent of what you already know from your Malabar. The first stance is going to be your number 3 stance. And we're going to do what we call wave walking. And that is in, up, and down. In, up, and down. In, up, and down. And then you turn. In, up, and down. In, up, and down. In, up, and down. And your turn. You should be right back where you were. Now you're going to raise and drop. You're going to raise as you enter and drop as you seat. Raise as you enter and drop as you seat. Raise as you enter and drop as you seat and turn. We're back to the walk, 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 turn thing almost. So we're going to raise and drop. Raise and drop. Raise and drop. And turn. Then we're going to do our walk, walk, turn. Walk, walk, turn. Walk, walk, turn. Walk, walk, turn. Back to your original position. Now we're going to collapse our knees together, suck in, throw up, and out, and around. And as we come in, we're breathing in. And now, the dragon walking. Since it's American, we're not going to go as low as we do for the Indonesian stuff. But we're going to do our sapu, and we're going to kick down and sink. We're going to do our sapu, kick down and sink. Sapu, kick, sink, and turn. Sapu, kick, sink, sapu, kick, sink, and turn. And there's your basics for American Kuntao Silat. Just that simple. You feel warm? Is that a warm-up? Yes. That was the answer.
Triangle footwork. Right side only. Following out, first line of the triangle. So that the feet align. A sapu. Step out on the line. Turn. The set. Up to the point. Turn. Sapu. Out on the line. Turn. The set. Turn.
Sapu is trip, or it means the motion?
Sweep,
Sweep.
Back sweep.
Yeah.
front sweep.
Sapu.
Best set is back.
Yeah.
The set is back, yeah. I knew that one.
Best set. Sapu. Best set. Modifications.
Okay, so we're starting our Kuntao Silat journey, and honestly, the level 1 material, all the stuff that we call warm-ups, well, the warm-ups, that's the real art. Those building blocks are everything. All the forms are going to be variations on the principles in the warm-ups. So what are some key principles to look for? Okay, we do have evasion, but we evade and we enter. We want to neutralize the threat as quickly as possible. We want to control the other guy's balance. We want to cover the guns. So we want to take away his tactical mobility and his ability to apply force in his movement. Okay, and then we want to control high, middle, low. Okay, I want to be able to control his footwork and his hands, and ideally I want to do it as I enter. So the angle we come in and the shape we take when we come in is very important. So James is a lot bigger than me. If I try to stand and duke it out with him, I'm toast. If he throws a punch at me, that first motion in the warm-up where we turn side to side, I'm getting the hell out of the way. That punch comes, I'm here. This is our version of like slipping in boxing. The difference is we turn and we want to move the whole spine because this is a bladed art. Okay, if James has some kind of a weapon and he's slashing, he's going to be able to get me if I only move my head. So if he were to punch and I just do this, my neck's exposed. That's bad. Okay, so I want to be able to get out of the way. From here, the palm waving motions, okay, the blockers, you'll hear them called. We don't block, we attack the attack. Attacking the attack can of course be a destruction, but as you grow in your journey, eventually it'll be more of a deflection or a parry and become a control. But for now, he comes here, one hand checks and covers, okay? This other hand's gonna come up and hit. You'll notice that generally we favor keeping the arteries towards us, especially when you're first learning. So as he comes in, because I don't know if he's armed, I have my arteries towards me, my bones towards him, okay? So this would be just the first part of this. Once you understand that, I'm here and then I have my entry where I step in, and this is controlling high and low. He's a lot stronger than me, but if I take away his stance, he can't issue forces effectively. I've covered his guns, I know where his hands are, and we're being safe, but this is oriented towards his eyes and his face, okay? So, boom, into here, okay? From here, as I attack the head and move that way, I get his weight on that other foot. There's your sapu motion. Even just a little bump like that to take his balance. It doesn't have to be the giant exaggerated throw that you see in movies. I just need to be able to get here and get him tripped. Okay, he's at an angle of disadvantage. Boom! There's your elbows, there's your punches, there's your kicks to the tailbone, there's attacks to the knee. All of that stuff comes from being in a better position, and I can get out of there. So from a different angle, if you don't mind, go remove to James. So he's here, I'm coming in here. For safety, I can come past, especially when I'm a beginner, but I'd be striking sensitive points in the face, especially the eyes, the nose. I'm taking away his ability to see what's going on. If my foot's in the front and I've straightened his leg out, I can sweep him. I can also apply pressure and damage his knee. Like that. Again, he's not going to go flying like in a movie, but he loses his balance. And there's the kidney, there's the liver. If I've got my blade, done. If he attacks and I come behind him, I've got that pukalan feeling where my body crashes in. As this controls the head and lifts, we're going to be safe because we're on concrete. But this would go back and I would spring his head down into that concrete. So those angles are all really important. So when you're first training, train with intention. Your partner really goes to punch you, even slow. If I don't move, I get touched. And that's okay. It's actually good to screw up on purpose because it helps you get over the fear of being hit. But I want to move in and I want to get control. And eventually you'll have all these other points that you'll discover. So just some stuff to start with.
So still working off of applications from sort of first level and beginning levels. Let's talk a little bit about some of the warm-ups that we do, obviously. So obviously as in the beginning, we kind of shift back and forth and practice the elbowing, and we also practice the blocking. So what does that actually mean for us? So as he comes to punch, we're still coming here, and as you'll see in other videos with John here, you'll learn more about some of the applications and what we're trying to do here. But the most important thing I would like you to take away from is that what do these movements actually mean, and what do they, and what you should focus on when applying them in application. So again, as he's punching, so we're still working off of this covering. This still comes up to hit and blast. It doesn't necessarily have to be a blast. As he comes to hit, this can even just be placement here. And again, there's a variety of things we can do from here. Also maintaining your footwork and keeping in mind where are your legs in relation to him. And again, as we're just thinking about this basic warm-up that we first start off with, here, this is teaching you how to shift, this is teaching you how to get out of the way, this is teaching you to cover one, cover two. These can be blocks and these can be hits. This can still be here, and as one comes down, this can rack the face and hit. And again, keep in mind the footwork. So where are you putting your foot? The foot can come in here, stomping on top. It can come here, snaking behind. Or you can even block with your shins and move in and attack this way. in mind. So this is just one of the warm-ups. Here, this is warm-up 2. This is going to be part of the warm-up as well. So again, thinking about what does all this mean, and then of course we can do it in triple hitter as well. Here, 1, 2, 3. Think about pushing. Again, these movements, it isn't necessarily set in stone. Don't immediately think of just like pushing people away. Think about it in terms of also what are the principles teaching you. So obviously 1, 2, 3, and then hovering and pushing away.
So the triple hitter has a lot of really important concepts in it that can be used for both inside and outside. I find it really important not just to think about it in terms of a single direction, but to think about the reverse directions as well. Because in that, you double the amount of things that you can do. Now, the triple hitter can be used from the outside, being able to capture and then strike, as well as being able to block from the inside and strip and hit as well. Now, when you're doing all of this, you don't just do it with one hand or another. There's not, a live hand and a dead hand. Both arms are moving at the same time. So as he comes in, I may come all the way in with the elbow, put strip on this side, and now this gives me space to move and the ability to constantly change how I'm going to do stuff.
It's your step out, it's your throw punch or something. You want to have your placement for your knife. You want to have all the other elements that you've been doing the last couple days, and then you want to have your follow-up so that you know right where that person's going to go. Everything's blocked off, and what ain't broke is bleeding.
Well, if he wants to fit in, then why would you wear, if he was Muslim, you would know Muslims don't wear running gear. Then why would you wear the rig in general with the Muslim power on it?
Dude, that's the thing about Illuminati conspiracies. Illuminati conspiracies aren't Okay, so this is going to go off to one of the blocks we did at the beginning. Scoop. Okay, so he's going to side kick, lean, scoop, and then be nice to your partner, drag and kick. And the idea is that you drop them right in front of you, and then you crush them. And you got the other hand if you want to introduce them to extra crush. There you go.
My mother believes in something, my brother believes in something. Doesn't mean
I
believe
believe
in
his brother the first time 5 years ago. I remember some anecdote from his autobiography about.
I've indoctrinated all this.
Is that better?
Hunter.
So there's a whole lot going on here as Pac Steve demonstrates and teaches internal Kuntao. So we're going to slow some of this down and go over some of the fine details to help you understand what you need to be looking for, and more importantly, what you need to be feeling for in your own practice. Remember that with internal martial arts, it's not about the contraction of the big muscles. It's about the use of the breath and the stance.
Yeah. That's the feel that you want. Ma! Yes. Yes. The synergism. Well, the idea of, in my opinion, the internal arts is that you're already in here. So boom, there's your hip. Boom, there's your hip. I mean, that's a hip. That's a hip. And it all comes off of just shaking your body. And with this. Right. Exactly.
Which is why they were saying you can say all of this curve, the brain curve goes. This is great, obviously super important, base great. Play.
Yes. You're alive. You want to feel everything in your body. When you're standing. Yes. Everything.
So if we just standing still, have to be standing still.
Oh no, that's the breath and movement that we're going to start working on soon. There. Yeah, the beset was too narrow. See, when you come in, throw a punch with this leg forward. Okay, I'm going to be here. Okay, so this can hit low. This can hit high. Either way, it has to help. And you want to make sure that this is protected. So this, boom, this. All happens almost simultaneously.
So here we have Pac Steve demonstrating the basic beset or back sweep that we've seen earlier in this video. But now he's adding internal power to it. When we talk about internal power, we're really talking about a controlled release. We're allowing our mass to fall into place and we're catching it. And the momentum that's generated naturally by suddenly dropping and catching, when combined with our breath work, is going to generate a tremendous amount of force, one that's often quite unexpected if you've never experienced it before. So let's go back and watch Pac Steve demonstrate wave walking again and discuss the mechanics behind what he's doing. In the internal martial arts, we are relying upon the alignment of the skeleton and control of our mass in order to generate force. So if you look carefully as Pac Steve moves, you'll notice that he raises his center of gravity. He raises his mass up. And then as he transitions stance to stance, he drops all that potential energy and catches it at the last second as he exhales. That creates that effect where his hands vibrate or shake. In order to be able to do this, you need to understand that you're trying to maintain relaxation in your big skeletal muscles. And you're trying to learn how to very subtly turn on your tendons and what's called your fascia or connective tissue. Fascia is elastic in nature, and it's the material that not only holds you together, but gives you much of your shape. In the internal martial arts, we use the Qigong exercises to learn how to relax the muscles, but keep the tendons and the fascia engaged, so that way we can maintain the alignment of our skeleton and control the application of our mass. so that every one of our strikes is our whole body hitting with the force of gravity. So let's look at some fine detail here. I want you to note that Pack Steve redirects the force of the attack at an angle that compromises the man's balance. When he's vulnerable, Pack Steve moves in and strikes using the weight of his entire body, and that force is sufficient to knock his attacker backward.
And here's your hit. You're hitting with the corner. Yeah. Well,
I felt that.
well, there's several different things that you can do. The hits can be a race. The hits can be a concussion. The hits can just be
So here, as Pack Steve demonstrates various hitters for his partner, we can once again see the mechanics in action. Even though he has no large visible windup in his body, he is very, very skillfully controlling the raising and lowering of his mass and the alignment of his skeleton. The breath work is what ties everything together, because we use breath to control the level of tension and relaxation in our body as well as in our mind. Now, if we exhale upon the sudden release of force, that gets the whole body engaged all at once as he turns on his tendons and his fascia, just enough to keep a purposeful shape. If your body is really tense, the force is going to get caught in the muscles, and you'll feel the force in you instead of your partner feeling it in them.
You have your choice. Whether you want to get him away from you, whether you want to put him down on the ground, or whether you just want to hurt somebody. So there's your...
Another important detail here is all the coils in Pack Steve's body. His hips, spine, his forearms all rotate upon the moment of release.
So the gathering energy, see, as an attack comes, you're gathering energy. See, this is just almost total relaxation. And then comes the hit.
Again, we see Pack Steve receive the attack. He redirects the force of the attack offline and at an angle, drawing the man's balance off. From here, we can see that Pack Steve has transitioned his weight towards his rear leg, and he begins to coil by having slight rotations in his hips and spine. In a moment, he's going to release all of this by transferring his weight from stance to stance and releasing the coils in his body at the same time that he exhales. This tremendous explosive force is referred to in the more conventional Chinese martial arts as Fa Jing, or attacking energy. In Kuntao Silat, we use Fa Jing to devastating effect on our attackers.
See, and once again, you're thinking about, say, if someone attacks.
This is why the internal martial arts are frequently described as soft, because as the attacker moves in, he doesn't feel any kind of resistance until there's a sudden devastating power.
Now, you're getting ready to move this leg forward. So I'm going to do a sapling. But I have to take care of this first, because I don't want to get hit. Then I have to hit as I move into position. And my position's got to be here, because of your leg in the leg. And then here is the sapling. You see where you're going?
Yeah.
And this is actually the hit. So then your step, when you stomp down, here's what you're stomping on. And then when he falls, his ankle breaks.
So from here we can see Pack Steve tie it all together. He receives the attack using the palm waving and applies internal principles to redirect the attack and begin taking the man's balance. Simultaneously, he would be stepping in using the triangle footwork. So watch carefully here. As he receives that attack, he's going to take a step forward and enter into his attacker's space. Simultaneously, as the weight transfers from stance to stance, there would be the attack to the head. He would be releasing the coils and all the potential energy as he transitions that mass and exhales. Striking the man's head is going to affect his structure, compromising the alignment of his skeleton and distracting him, allowing Steve to then begin the setup for the front leg sweep. Here, Pack Steve also demonstrates that you could crash the shins together. This impact shin on shin is extremely painful, particularly for someone who doesn't have conditioned shins. Note that as Pack Steve does the front sweep, or sapu, he would still be pushing the head of the attacker the opposite direction. Again, splitting the man's balance, compromising his structure, and in all likelihood knocking him to the ground. Note also that this is the eagle posture. So every movement in Kuntao Silat is just posture to posture. And it's the postures that supply the power because they give us a proper shape, aligning the skeleton. What we need to do is utilize breath work and body control to move efficiently from posture to posture and get the maximum potential force. From here, we're going to see Pack Steve also demonstrate that the next logical movement after he performs the sapu or front sweep is to then stomp down and attack his attacker's other foot. Attacking the top of the foot can be devastating because not only do you risk breaking the small bones in the foot, by pinning the foot to the ground as the man falls, there's a very strong likelihood that he will end up dislocating or breaking his own ankle, thus rendering him combat ineffective. Remember that in Kuntao Silat, we are not trying to stand and trade with an attacker to prove who's tougher or better trained or more of a man, or any of those ego-driven motivations. Instead, we're responding to violence by trying to incapacitate the attacker as quickly as possible and create an opening for us to get home safe.
And he can't run after you. You can leave. Yeah. With the beset, as the attack comes, you have to be here in order to make a beset work. And you can just crack it with just by throwing your heel down and then popping away. And then this guy. Boom. So both of these are predicated by absolute proximity. You have to be right on your opponent in order to do the
So here again, we're going to see Pack Steve demonstrate entering in using the triangle footwork, but now he's demonstrating the pukalan concept, that idea of crashing in with your whole body, slamming into him. When we do this, we're displacing our attacker. It's the same principle as dropping a heavy object into water and all the water gets knocked out of the way. We want to displace our attacker by coming in at an angle that affects his structure and his balance, taking away his ability to exert force effectively. From here, Steve has placed his lead leg behind his attacker's leg and set him up for the back sweep, or beset. So as Pack Steve sweeps backwards with his beset along the triangle, he's continuing the forward motion of the pukalan with his right arm, splitting the man's alignment and power and knocking him to the floor. One of the points that Pack Steve makes in the explanation here is the importance of controlling the space. Space and time are linked. The more distance between you and an attacker, the more chance that the man has to respond to what you're doing or for you to respond to what he's doing. Once the attacker has made that initial movement, we want to take away his reaction time, his opportunity to counter our counter. So we want to move in, take his balance, and knock him to the floor as quickly and effectively as we can so that the fight is over.
People think fighting is out here. There's kicking distance, from here. There's punching distance from here. We don't want any distance. And you notice I always pop this as I head in. See, I always do this. Well, no, see, once you pass the elbow, then you don't have to worry about it hitting. And then you can do like your barbed wire. But it's all here. That's where we start. You like me so far. Right. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Come on. I'll throw a basset in there for you. Okay. Now, here I am. That was good. That was good. That was exactly right. Yes. Yes. But as long as you've got pressure high and leg work going down low, then you've got them whipsawed. Yeah. See, we'll feel it. I'm going to go. I'm going to take this leg. So I need to hit, boom, and then up comes the leg. Ah! There's your sweep.
And here we have yet another beautiful illustration of fundamental Kuntao Silat. Pack Steve enters in using the triangle and simultaneously gets control of his attacker's hands and feet. He takes the man's balance and then sweeps him using the sapu, or the front sweep. Part of what is so wonderful about Kuntao Silat is that it really is quite simple. In fact, here in the first level of training, you learn all of the stuff that you need to effectively defend yourself. The subsequent levels, with their various forms, are simply more and more sophisticated ways of doing these core concepts. Kuntao Silat is special because it is still focused on realistic self-protection. It has not been changed or modified in any way to account for a competitive format where you need techniques to be bigger and safer so that they can be seen by judges and an audience, nor have they been modified for the purposes of demonstration or entertainment, the way you see in certain cultural arts or in the kind of stylized martial arts that we see in movies and television.
Your front. Yes. Good. What we're doing is adding Indonesian footwork to the Chinese internal arts. Leave it to them crazy Americans, huh?
Crazy Americans, they know nothing.
didn't have to like this, did you?
Okay, so we're just playing with some applications of the Bilchang Kuntao. So like generating power against a target so you're not hitting your partner, but so you're not using muscle, it's all breath and stance, but staying relaxed, or and then it's all those different power methods of being able to playing with the idea of lifting and dropping. So as he comes in, you know, this is that power there. So like that, and try not to do it too hard. But the other thing is you can use that same power, so as he comes in, and then you're breaking this with your breath. And then we haven't even gotten to the exhalation yet. So he comes in, and then or and it'd be snapping. Or just and moving a much bigger person using your breath. I mean, against any kind of attack, but just the idea of that short power. So stepping with the strikes, instead of entering with a Silat punch, you're still covered, but you have that. So he obviously outweighs me by about 80 pounds, but I can still move him using just energy. So even if he was punching, that would be dangerous. And then if you were to combine that with your normal Silat, just knocking that out. And then the other idea is, so this motion in here where we gather, you can use it in different directions, still catch the foot, but have that knockout power. Right in here. So I have that power there, but then I've got that to bring him over, and I don't have to use effort. But you got to be careful when you practice, obviously, so you don't blast anybody too hard. And then finally, you know, being able, even from the sleeping horse, to generate force like with elbows or forearms, being able to. So if he's attacking, I can be entering and hitting, but then I've also got the power there. So eventually I can just be this whirlwind like that, where I'm hitting with the elbow or the forearm as I come through, and I'm so close I've got his arm covered. So from this angle, you got to catch yourself so you don't hurt anybody. But see, I've got him trapped, and then that same catch in there.